We could Gaston and on about our next guest. He's the Hollywood heartthrob with a jawline as sharp as any storyline and a backstory that reads like a film script. His autobiography, Boy from the Valleys, is out now. And by hook or by crook, we've managed to book Luke Evans!
All right, Lukey, come on, let's give him a round of applause. What a story!
Oh.
I had no idea.
Really?
It's a proper rags to riches, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, it really is.
All right, so for people who haven't read the book, please do get the book. It's a great read. It's a perfect Christmas memoir. It's probably the showbiz memoir of this holiday season, I would say. So where from, where to, and some headlines in between, then we'll crack on.
Right, well, it starts from before I was born, just before I was born, with my mum and dad, how they met, and then it goes through my whole life from the valleys as being a little kid, growing up in this little village, a Jehovah's Witness upbringing, leaving Wales, moving to London, going to college, and all the sliding doors and opportunities that were presented to me, and the ones I took, the ones I wish I took, the ones I wish I hadn't taken, and it finishes in January 2024.
Yeah, and so that means we got part 2 on the way. You got to live it first.
You got to live it first, Chris.
Tell us all about it. Write all about it. We'll read all about it. All right. Of course, knowing you were gay very early on. And being the son of Jehovah's Witness couple, and also being in the gang. What's it called again? If you're in the Jehovah's Witness?
In the truth.
In the truth, being in the truth. All right, so you had to confront your sexuality publicly, not to yourself at all, because you were completely accepting of your own sexuality. Not once, not twice, but 3 times throughout your life so far. Just give us a flavour of those walls that you had to break through.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it, when you forget that, straight people don't have to come out. It's already set up for you, as it always has been. But gay people, gay kids, they sometimes, it's not a straightforward path out, to coming out and being accepted. And mine was that, I was terrified I was not going to have anyone around me if I did tell people who I was. So, there was that. And then moving out of home and moving to Cardiff and discovering a new group of friends. And then I then ended up in London, and then I went to college and surrounded by all colourful peacocks from around the United Kingdom, around the world actually, in my college, and finding, my identity within that, colourful place. And then, becoming, starting to do movies where my profile jumped from sort of 3 to 15 overnight, and then people didn't know who I was again. And it was I was like, oh God, do I have to do this again?
Yeah, I know.
This is incredible.
Because it never gets easier, and it never gets less fair.
No.
And so coming out to your mates in Wales, and then people that you worked with before you had even left Wales to start your proper journey to becoming a professional actor and being a professional performer. And then, so there was some relief there once that happened amongst people that you could trust.
Yes.
And then you come to London, there's a different level of relief and release.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you go to Hollywood, and there's the ultimate level of relief and release, because now everybody knows because you're a global superstar.
Yeah, nobody really cares.
No, nobody really
it's
cares.
Not even a conversation.
Apart from the fact that you don't care about. Well, there's that great phrase, isn't it? Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. In the end.
Yeah. And I think just as in the last, 5 years, where it's not even a topic of conversation. I've been on your show many times. We don't talk about it. It's not something that you need to talk about. I bring out a book to make it bracket everybody's minds all over again. But
it's really important.
It's important because it's a journey. My journey is not unique. It's just I've put it to paper, pen to paper, and talked about it. I'm sure everybody has a story of their own. And part of the reason I did the book in the first place was, firstly, I thought it could be something that could inspire young people. Maybe they see themselves in my journey, or they're at a part of my journey which they can see themselves at, and they really are struggling. It don't necessarily mean that they're gay, just people who are just teenagers who may be in a place where they just have no hope, or they don't know what they want to do, and
or they think maybe nobody would understand, when in fact lots of people would understand.
Lots of people would, yes, and it's to look at me and go, well, that's where I went through, and this is where I am, and
this I mean that is one of the narratives throughout the whole book. The Jehovah's Witness thing is throughout the whole book as well. You being a proper working class kid, struggling for money, and then getting a bit, and then not having enough, and then mum and dad and the house next door coming up for sale, and secretly trying to buy that, but you're not showbiz enough to have the money to buy it. You got $5,000 for a deposit, but you need to borrow $5,000 from somebody else.
My mate,
That's so great stories, man. And you're clearly a very good friend, because you reference your friends all the way through the book, and lots of them are still your mates now.
It's true.
And so you work for Disney, you got the Disney thing going on, you got Fast and Furious going on, you work for the Broccolis, Barbara Broccoli as well, and that's quite early on in your career. When you work for Disney, you not only do you get the gig, you get a decent script, one would imagine, you get this worldwide release where you're flown around the world, but you also get, they say, look, would you like an assistant? We'll pay for an assistant. That's what happens there. So there are different kinds of contracts. Give us a flavour of all that.
Yeah, well, I had never had an assistant before, and when I did Beauty and the Beast, they said, would you like to choose an assistant, or should we choose one for you? And I was like, well, I had a mate at the time.
What are they going to assist me with?
Yeah, I had a mate at the time who was had been away and was coming back to London and didn't have a job, and I was like, do you want to see if it works? Do you want to come and work for me? And hopefully, who knows? Maybe you will hate it, or maybe I'll hate it. And that was 10 years ago, and we're still working together now.
And now, because you've worked with Dwayne Johnson, and he's got quite a big on.
He's got loads.
Yeah, but you understand why now.
Yeah,
because
totally.
You sort of need it, because you're on your own all the time.
You're on your own, and I think part of it, obviously, the role of an assistant is to take a lot of the weight off your shoulders, so you can focus on the thing that you get paid for, and focus on that specifically. But it's also the company, it's also the support, it's also having somebody that knows you outside of that world, where you can just have, just a
normality.
Yeah.
And is it true that Dwayne The Rock, because Luke knows The Rock, he's like mates with The Rock. He's a lovely bloke, apparently, isn't he?
Yeah, he's lovely.
He couldn't be any nicer.
He's a gentle giant. Yeah.
Is it true that he has an oil carrier?
This was one experience in the book, right. And it's true, but it's the only time. I don't know whether he does it now, possibly not, but during the shoot of the Fast and the Furious, and you have to watch the show, you have to watch the films to see that he's shiny.
He's a shiny dude.
If you've got those muscles, you want them to look the best.
Absolutely.
And that's why, these muscle bodybuilders and, competitive bodybuilders, they're always covered in that shiny stuff. So, Dwayne travelled with his,
But he had an oil spill, didn't he?
There was an oil spill on the conveyor belt,
And there was lots of oil.
There was a lot in Tenerife. I think they're still trying to clean it up now.
More
7
oil in
years
the
later.
suitcase than in the plane's engines. And then Vin Diesel, you're one of your other co-stars in Fast and Furious, a massive musical theatre fan.
Loves it.
Tell us about that.
Loves it. It's the oddest thing. I remember that the first time I met him, you have this preconception of what they're going to be like. This Vin Diesel talks like this. And within minutes, we were talking about West Side Story and huge musicals, and he loved it. He'd start singing songs. He'd get me to sing songs. It was the most surreal moment. I just wasn't expecting to have that conversation with Vin Diesel, it was such an odd thing.
It's such a joyous book. It's full of all these stories. Talking about Luke's new book, Luke Evans, and My Unexpected Journey. And this is all a far cry from spotting Charles Dance in London, your first ever famous person.
Yeah.
Because we all know there's different levels, aren't there? There's the local celeb, and then there's your first ever proper celeb. Yeah. So tell us about you seeing Charles Dance and then going on to work with him.
Yeah, that's the best part. Is so I remember me and my mum, when we started to go to see the musicals. We'd catch the bus 6 a.m. from Aberbarg. Take 3.5, 4 hours to get to Piccadilly Circus, and you'd get over the flyover, then you'd see all the big billboards, then you see the planes looking like they were stationary in the sky as you're passing Heathrow Airport, and then you'd get to Piccadilly. Well, you get to Piccadilly, and then you knew you were in central London. And the one time I was with my mum, I think we were coming to see Sunset Boulevard, and we looked out the window and went, oh, that's a famous person. There's a famous person, man. That's a famous person. And my mum was like, it is. And I think we knew Charles from the Merchant Ivory films
of course.
at that time. Yeah. And it took us a minute to work out who he was. And anyway, that was my story for probably like a decade after that. I saw Charles dance on the street, when we were arriving in London. Cut to 20 years later, more than that possibly, I played Dracula in Dracula Untold, and he plays the evil monster that lives in the mountains, and I work with this man who was the first famous person I ever met. He's
coming in a couple of weeks' time.
Is he?
Yeah, we're talking about that.
Oh, you should.
By the way, he hasn't aged a day. I don't know how he does all that.
He's lovely.
He's another cool guy. Man. Talking of Dracula, so first really a big, this movie's on my shoulders. It's a $100 million movie. You get offered the part of Dracula, and then it goes gangbusters. Couldn't have gone any better, I don't imagine.
No, it did great.
And then you meet Prince Charles. And he says, "Oh, I've got Dracula history."
Yes, it was the funniest thing. It was the first time I'd ever met him. I just signed up to become a Prince's Trust ambassador, now the King's Trust, and it was my first time to meet him. So we're all put in these little sort of semicircle things. We've all done it in this room, and anyway, he comes around, and I thought he was just going to say hello and move on. And he said, "So what are you doing right now?" "Oh, this is an actor. He's an actor." And I said, "I've just finished a movie called Dracula Untold. I played Vlad Tepes, who fictionally turns into Dracula." He said, "Oh, I'm actually related to Vlad Tepes." And I'm like, "Are you?" Thinking there's a punchline coming. And he said, yes. And then he literally went through his lineage all the way back to Vlad Tepes. 16, 17 generations.
His property portfolio where?
He has one he has the castle in Romania, or next to the castle. Yeah.
And he actually then he uttered the famous Michael Caine line. He said, "Not a lot of people know that."
Not a lot of people know that.
Because why would he have that conversation with anybody else?
And I think that was it. But every time I've spoken to Charles, he knows so much. He's so well travelled and well read. He'll find common ground on any subject. It's almost now I'm waiting for the next time I meet him just to really think of something really off the wall to see if he can pick up on it. But
so you'd co-starred in big movies before, but this is the first big one. Different story. Again, there's imposter syndrome all the way through the book as well. Because if you don't suffer from imposter syndrome, you're not the real deal. I think it's the opposite. I think people who really are what they become have to have imposter syndrome. I think it's part of the recipe.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, in fact, in a certain strain of imposter syndrome, a certain size of imposter syndrome can be healthy, because you're always just going, "Isn't this epic?" I've just written a book. I hate writing. I've actually written a book about my life, and I have these moments even now, and I don't think it actually keeps me grounded, but also just makes me appreciate each moment, and I don't let it consume me to a point where I can't enjoy it. But I have it every couple of weeks. I have a moment. I'm just like, God,
and that
this is
screams
nuts.
out of the book. You're still obviously completely excited about what you do for a living, and you're a fan of it, and you look back on it so fondly and so candidly. It's a brilliant book about being a human being. It's a great book about having a right laugh and seeing how far you can get on this roller coaster called show business. So the call about getting the job in The Hobbit, Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
So you auditioned for The Hobbit. It was a video audition. Then he said, "Can you fly out and come and see me, because we think we want to sign you." But you were already committed to another role, and you said to your agents, "What should I do?" And they said, "Well, you can't go.
Can't go
because we are legally contracted for you to be in America."
Yeah, and it was this. I hadn't worked for maybe 3 or 4 months, and this horror film came up where I was going to play this psychopath. It was blood everywhere, kind of movie, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. There was nothing else going on at that point. And of course, then Peter Jackson called out of the blue. It's not like we knew it was going to happen. This tape had been sent to him 18 months before, and we'd let it go. It was somebody else had been cast, obviously. And it came out of the blue the night before I was supposed to fly to New Orleans. And I had to get on that flight thinking that probably that biggest opportunity of my life had passed me by. Yep. And I was very, very deflated when getting on the plane. And after that very long flight, I turned my phone on, finally it all gets reception, and it's just bing, 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 and I'm looking at it, and there's all these messages. So I call my agents, and they're like, "We called him after you'd gone on the plane to tell him, sadly, he can't get on a flight to do a screen test." And he called us back half an hour later, said, "Do you know what? his audition was good enough. We're going to give him the job. And I never went home. So I did that job and flew from New Orleans to New Zealand. Same bag, summer clothes. And I arrived in New Zealand with winter, descending.
So Disney offer you enough money and suggests you get an assistant. Peter Jackson gives you a house on the beach. For how long?
For a year.
What a laugh!
I know.
And not just you, but all your co-stars.
Oh yeah, it was Hobbit Town.
Hobbit Row.
Hobbit Row, yeah.
And then Mum and Dad get an invite over.
Yeah, they came out. First time they'd ever traveled business. Yeah. First time they'd ever been that long on a plane. And
Jehovah's Business.
Jehovah's Business. They loved it. They loved it. They extended their trip as well.
Well, I don't know why. If you read the book, there's so much in there. Don't worry about it.
Their experience was quite epic.
Well, it was epic in as much as one of them was in the epic. So Peter Jackson didn't have to give that much direction to our friend Luke Evans here. However, he did have to have a word with your dad because your dad ends up in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad really, I mean, it was actually Peter's idea. Peter loves to put his friends and family in anything, and The Hobbit was obviously the perfect vehicle for that. We've got Steve Colbert is in one of my scenes in Lake Town, for example, So we dressed my dad up as one of the Lake Towners, and there was loads of them, and my dad managed to find in a huge basket of brown and grey and charcoal blankets, a bright red one. He's a born performer, my father, and he's in a crowd, and I'm raring this crowd to tell them that Stephen Fry, who plays the mayor of Lake Town, is a bad man, and the camera's panning across this crowd of 30 people, and it gets to my dad, and my dad is like nodding like one of those dogs on the dashboard of a car, overacting. So Peter calls me on the God mic. He's like, "Luke, can you just come to the tent a second?" And I was like, "Oh God, what's happened?" I go to the tent. He said, "Just watch this playback." And you watch the playback. All the professional extras are really, contained and really in it. They've been there for years. We've been doing it forever. And then you get to my dad, and he's yes, and like really shaking his head. Bless him. He said, "Do you think you can get him to tone it down a bit?" I said, "Leave it with me." And I told my dad,
"Dad, can I have a word?
Just crank it down about 150%, which he did, and he's in the show.
And Ian McKellen as well. You get on like a house on fire with him.
Yeah, he lived at the End House, the biggest one, and he used to have lovely brunches and dinners, and on the weekend we'd go for walks, and I really valued my time with Peter.
I'm not surprised, but that's like a year, because then you came back here, and then Peter wasn't happy with things, because he's Peter Jackson, he flies everybody out again, pays them all more money, because the movie ends up making all the money anyway, and he sort of knows that's going to happen, so he says, whatever we need, we're going to do. And so you end up spending like over a year there, and by the way, other people spent a lot longer. Can you believe little Luke Evans from the Valleys? You get a year of your life just for, you'd give it all up just for that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Just that one experience would have been enough.
I mean, I don't get envy so many people. I'm like, that sounds like it might have been all the fun.
I remember Peter, Fran and Philippa, they were like, "We love your Welsh accent, and we're going to make Lake Town Welsh." Yeah. And so they cast all Welsh accented people in the Southern Hemisphere to be the Lake Towners. So my accent has had a stamp on Lake Town. It wasn't Welsh in the book. No one knew how they spoke, but it's now, that's the sound of Lake Towners is Welsh.
Well done, Wales.
So it's lovely.
Couple of Aussie ladies make it in the book. Not more than once. You got Kylie in there, and you got Nicole in there. Just speak to your friendship with those two ladies a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't name drop anybody more brilliant than Nicole and Kylie Minogue, both from a country that I love and have spent many months in. And they are. I know them separately to each other. Kylie I've known for almost 20 years. I was in a version of Rent Remix that her creative stylist, William Baker, directed, and we've been friends ever since. And Nicole I know from doing 9 Perfect Strangers, which I shot in Byron Bay and then hung out in Sydney. Yeah, it was a great show. And then I got asked Nicole to sing on my second album, and she said yes. So,
and you also have a collection of Nicoles as well, because you have a Scherzinger to back up the Kidman, don't you?
I've got another Nicole, yeah. Nicole Scherzinger is also, she was on my show, the Luke Evans Showtime, which I did 2 days ago, actually.
And congratulations on the old BAFTA.
BAFTA Cymru.
So Nicole saw something you put out on Insta, and she DM'd you, didn't she?
It was me and Nicole Kidman's video of a little snippet of our song that we sang together, Say Something. We could put a little video together.
So you have two Nicoles, she has two Evanses.
She does, yeah.
Because Tom,
who's the other one?
Tom, her partner.
Yes.
He's an Evans.
And the other one?
You.
Oh, me, right. Okay, it's early. I am jet lagged.
Are you actually jet lagged?
I was probably up earlier than you this morning.
Come on.
3 a.m.
Yeah, that's actually true. Where have you come in from?
West London.
You can't be jet lagged from West London.
No, sorry, no.
I know you really are jet lagged.
I am jet lagged. I've been in Portland for 3 months in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Shooting a TV show for Amazon, which comes on next year.
I love these mega TV shows, don't you?
Yeah,
They're
this
so
one
cool,
is
aren't
epic.
they?
It's an adaptation of a very famous comic called Criminal by Ed Brubaker. If you know who Ed Brubaker is, you know this is a very famous book. And so I bring to life this character from a book again, which I love.
Good for you, mate. You're so busy. You're so busy. You're so happy. You're so enthusiastic. And we've been getting WhatsApps from people. You met somebody's son once who wanted to be in musical theatre, and she said he couldn't have been any nicer. And what's also great about the book, because it is so candid, and it sort of sprints along as well. So much stuff happens, really normal stuff, then really extraordinary stuff. And you have met your fair share of crazies on the way as well. The guy who owned the big yacht. He gets a few column inches, doesn't he? Yeah. And then was it William and Carl as well, who were nice to you? And you've had a lot of people being nice to you, haven't you? Coming, doing your favours.
Very kind people that, changed the course of my life. Which I am forever grateful for.
And Steven Spielberg knows of your work because he said hello to you and he referenced some of the stuff you did and the fact that he knew your name. And
that was mad.
Where was that? What happened there?
That was at the MoMA in New York was presenting an award to Tom Hanks, and I had been there because I just finished the press tour for Dracula Untold, and so I got an invite, and I sat at a long table with Meryl Streep. There was 3 tables, and my back was to Steven Spielberg, and I couldn't believe it. And at the end of the dinner, I just knew that he was behind me, and I knew that he'd spoke, because him and Peter have worked together several times. They did Tintin together, and he'd said something very lovely about my performance in The Hobbit, and Peter had told me that, and so I was like, maybe he'll recognize me, maybe he doesn't. And at the end of the dinner, we all got up. I turned around and I look at him, about to say, hi, I'm Luke Evans. He went, Luke Evans. And
no way.
And I thought, how do you, Steven Spielberg? And he's like, lovely to meet you.
Great.
And, those moments, like, the imposter syndrome was high that night.
I'm so pleased for you. I'm so pleased for you. You're about halfway now, aren't you? You would say that, wouldn't you?
I'd say so. I mean, by the way, this book was 900 pages long, so there's a lot that's not in it.
And by the way, well edited, whoever edited it, because it's really, the edit's so important. That's why we've written a few books between us, and the edit is what it's all about, isn't it?
Very much so.
So, still dreams. We opened the show today. Never hold your dreams too tightly that you'll crush them. And you're not doing that because you still would love to be in Les Mis. You mentioned another musical you'd love to be in as well.
Phantom, just for a week though. I don't want to do any longer than that. I just did a play the beginning of this year, and it's no joke. It's full on. It's really hard work. It's really
Is that
really
Back
hard.
Billy?
Backstage Billy.
Backstage Billy. You came and talk about that.
Yes, I did.
So it's all good in the hood, yeah?
Everything's great.
Yeah,
everything's great.
Family's good.
Family's great. We're everybody's happy, and yeah.
Are you still learning stuff?
Every day.
What kind of stuff are you learning?
I read. I'm learning Spanish. I look at about to get a dog, so learning a lot about how to look after a dog right now. I'm building a house. I'm always doing something.
And are you sorted? Because you talk about, because you came from nothing, I came from nothing. Do you think you're sorted?
Yeah. I think in the back of my mind, there's always like that little devil saying, you could lose it all tomorrow. But I've tried to be very sensible with the money I've got and I've earned. I don't want ever to feel in an unsafe place anymore. And I want to look after my family, and I want us all just to grow old with no wolves at the door. And so I've tried to manage it the best way I know how, and advice and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stop working, but because I love what I do. I mean, I feel very lucky to be able to work in a living that I love. I mean, it's not common. I know a lot of people that don't, and so I don't take that for granted.
Your agent said that you are the hardest working person they've ever met, and you can slow down if you want to.
Yeah.
And you went, can I?
Can
And
I?
then you met a mate who took a year off or something, 2 years off or
Took
something.
a year. Yeah, it was like, I've just taken a year off. And I was like, can you do that? Can you do? I'd be scared they wouldn't remember me when I came back. So
Well,
Maybe I will.
it's a lovely book, mate. It's a
Thanks,
lovely
Chris.
book. I don't know how long it took you to write it, but however long it was definitely worth it. It's a great read.
I'm happy you enjoyed
Really,
it.
really good read. Anything you want to say while you're here?
Well, I'm just looking forward to listening to what people have to say. I'm just about to go do a book tour. So I'm going to be in Chester. I'm going to go and do the Hay Festival. I'm doing Cardiff, the New Theatre. I'm doing Yeovil and Birmingham Comic Con.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be able to chat to everybody around the country,
Tell you
which
what
is
we haven't
exciting.
talked about. We haven't talked about there's this brilliant article in the Times on Saturday in the weekend section. So I had your book in the Times on the train up north and back down again.
Right.
And on the front page of the Times, it said, "How I Get a Gladiator Body in Midlife." And this is one of their writers, Phil Hilton. He's 60, and he took on the sort of guruship or under the watching eye of this fitness maestro called Simon Waterson. So I'm reading this in the paper, and then I start carrying reading your book. And it's the same Simon Watson who sorted you out.
Same guy.
So he's clearly quite good at what he does.
Oh,
then.
he's very good.
Any
yeah.
headlines there? What can we do? Come
I
on.
mean, he's one of the best.
So
I
loads
mean,
of chicken.
You just got to listen to Simon.
What about this pints of green tea with loads of green tea bags in it?
Yeah, well,
Why do you have to have loads of green tea bags?
I mean, I have a feeling that he stole that one from me because I remember doing Immortals and coming back, and we were training for Fast and the Furious, and I knew that you get a big 2 litre flask and you'd put 3 green tea bags in,
Right.
fill it with half warm hot water and then half cold, and then you just drink it all day. I mean, it just flushes you out, and obviously
Right.
it's detoxifying, but also has caffeine in it,
Yeah.
and you're drinking the water you
Fills
need.
you up as
Fills
well.
you up, and that's what I did when we did Immortals, which with Henry Cavill very early on. That was what we did every day. I like that Simon does that because I think it's probably one of the best things.
So chicken's really important because it's full of protein. Chicken and
Chicken's
tuna, salmon.
Beef, the lot,
Yeah.
all those
All the
proteins.
meats.
I mean, if you eat chicken on its own, I wouldn't last 2 minutes because it gets boring.
Yeah.
You've got to mix it up. But
All right, mate. Well, it's great to mix it up with you again. I'm so pleased you came in to see us. When I heard you were coming, I was so excited. And so
I'm
were the
just
team.
happy, always
So were the
happy to
team.
be
It's
here.
great,
I love
it's
this
great.
place.
Have you seen The Perfect Couple on Netflix?
I have.
What do you think?
I enjoyed it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I
didn't think it was. What?
I haven't seen the end of it.
Oh God!
You are joking me.
I thought you said you'd
I'm
watched it.
I'm 4 episodes in. Oh no!
That's it. I'm never coming back.
Oh my no!
I'm never coming back.
Okay, well, so that's Luke Evans. His book is all right. If you're struggling for, I don't know.
Oh God!
No, I'm gonna have to. How do I unhear that?
Just pretend I did. It's still really good. Enjoy the performances.
It was all going so well, wasn't it?
Oh, it was going so
Oh
well.
dear me!
I thought you binged it like my book.
Have you seen the Hot Rabbi show?
No, tell
Okay.
me. Do you want to spoil it for me?
He gets killed in the end.
There we go. Fine. There we go. We're even now.
No, he doesn't actually. Thank you, Luke Evans. Let's hear it for Luke. Yay!
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, thank you guys.
Apart from the last bit.
Sorry.